Okay, guys, welcome back to another episode of Rotten Reviews. On this episode, I take a look at the 1999 film The Astronaut's Wife. It has a 15% on the tomato meter and a 33% on the audience score. It has a big whopping 59,148 audience reviews, still making it 33%. Quite rotten. I'll say that the major flaw in this film is not Johnny Depp. It is not Charlize Theron. It is not Joe Morton. These actors all do good jobs. They try hard. They actually try. But the script is just boring. The story is boring. The theme is boring. This has all been done so many times before in slightly various ways with slightly varying degrees of success. Some with more action, some with less, some with more psychological drama, some with less, all more effective. This is a complete waste of time. It is just so very boring. It doesn't give you any of those things I just mentioned. It fails at all of them. The one thing it gives you is a lengthy a lengthy lot of scenes, a lot of wasted footage, a lot of boredom. If you try to sit through this thing, expect to fall asleep if you got home after a hard day at work, because you will fall asleep. There's nothing new here. There's nothing to even titillate you on a visual level. There is simply an old cliched plot of an alien takeover, somebody finding out that a family member, in this case a spouse, is actually has been taken over or possessed by some kind of alien. There's an alien invasion plot, a la Invasion of the Body Snatchers or The Puppet Masters, or any number of alien invasion movies like this that attempt to be psychological thrillers. Some of them are successful at that. This one is not. Johnny Depp, he's an astronaut who is the survivor of a couple of astronauts that have a really bad time out in space on a particular mission. They are shuttle astronauts repairing satellites and etc. Now, both of the astronauts make it back after a kind of what is shown as a kind of chaotic accident where you don't even know what happened exactly as an audience member. You just know that it was an accident in space. And there are two astronauts. Johnny Depp survives. His other astronaut partner does not survive. Apparently, Johnny Depp is, we all know from the beginning of this right off the bat, it's not a surprise that Johnny Depp is taken over by an alien. It's even in the marketing of the film. So it starts off with something that should have been perhaps a reveal at some point. But no, this attempts to take that opening premise that Johnny Depp's astronaut character is an alien bent on some evil thing, and he's got to convince his wife to go along and not turn him in or whatever. It takes that premise and just like doesn't do anything with it and strings us along, and there's no big dramatic reveal. There's no happy ending. In fact, there's kind of an unhappy ending. The wife ends up killing off Johnny Depp, but Johnny Depp is successful at leaving behind two twin I believe it's twin sons, or a son and a daughter. I don't even remember. I'm sure the reviewers are going to let us know. I haven't seen this movie in some time, and I don't want to put myself through it again. But let's just say Johnny Depp, he leaves behind a couple of kids that are also basically aliens in disguise, bent on some kind of plan to take over the Earth. It doesn't give us anything. It gives us like a hopeless ending, and there's not really a point to it. It's not telling us anything. There's no hidden message to be found here. But let's get right into the audience reviews. We have one quite relevant from summer of this year, July 2019. 4 stars. Surprise, surprise. I think the critics that gave this movie a bad review need to have their heads examined. It was a solid movie, and I appreciated the twist of an ending. I'm sorry, but there was no twist ending here. I just got through explaining that. The movie ended like it started, with some kind of alien or alien force inhabiting a human body on the road to taking over the world by some nefarious plan. The movie started with that. The movie was marketed as that. The movie ended with that. Nothing to see here. No twist. I'm sorry. I don't know what twist they're talking about, unless they saw a different movie and they just they're mistaking this movie for a different movie where there was a twist. There's no twist here. Sorry, people. Wow, we go back a year already. October 2018, 2 stars. The Astronaut's Wife is a bad film. No two ways about it. The plot is basically Rosemary's Baby in a science fiction template. Yeah, Johnny Depp and Charlize Theron play a married couple about to have a baby. When Depp, an astronaut, is assigned a space mission, something happens out there, and although he returns in one shape, something is amiss. The film is slow paced and doesn't really go anywhere. From what I remember, this is a film that should be considered only if nothing else interests you. Yeah, this reviewer reminded me of yet another movie where this has been done better, Rosemary's Baby. This is like the alien twist on it, I suppose. It goes nowhere, like this reviewer says. The wife suspects that the husband is possessed by some evil alien entity, and she attempts to kill the entity and also, in effect, killing her husband. That's all we get from this. We've seen this a million other times. What's the point? I don't know. Let's move on. We're in August of 2018, 1.5 stars. Charlize Theron is great, but she can't save this poorly written, slow-moving screenplay. Exactly. Charlize is great. So is Johnny Depp. Everybody does their job. But the script is just complete nonsense. It doesn't have a point. It doesn't go anywhere. There's no thrill. Even the marketing tells you everything that's happening. Nothing else happens. What's the point? Why would you buy a ticket and sit down and watch this? If you did, if you actually saw this in the theater in 1999, I'm sorry. Maybe on behalf of like whoever produced this, I can apologize. I know it rings pretty hollow, but I'm just so glad I saw this on like HBO at one time, like perhaps in the early 2000s, because if I had paid money for this, even if I had rented the DVD, I would have been upset about my $2 rental fee. Yeah, pretty damn boring. 3 stars, July of 2018. I've always enjoyed The Astronaut's Wife and have come back to it multiple times over the years. Sure, I can agree that its pacing is a slow build, but just like Rosemary's Baby, I found the payoff in snail's pace progression to fit the story they were trying to tell. It's not a cinematic masterpiece, but there is enough here to keep me reflecting on my experience with a positive light. Charlize is great, and an early Depp does a great normal man, something that has become a rarity in his career. Well, they are saying one positive thing, that Johnny Depp isn't playing a weirdo. He's just playing a straight up Boy Scout astronaut type character. Then why did they even cast Johnny Depp? I don't know. Because it wouldn't have mattered. It would have still been incredibly boring. There wasn't anything to see in his character either. 2 stars. The Astronaut's Wife is a strange film to review. It isn't a great film. Heck, I don't remember much of it, but it isn't bad either. The plot is basically Rosemary's Baby in a science fiction template. Johnny, did I read this before? Let's just say the film doesn't really go anywhere, and I think I've read that review before. Let's move on. March of 2018, 1 star. I'm 25 minutes into this, and I'm on Rotten Tomatoes because I can tell this will be a flop. Yeah, you're right. Just shut it off. 25 minutes. Yeah, you should have like gotten your first clue from the trailer that you weren't going to see anything new. But anyway, 1 star, January of 2018, a rare misfire from Johnny Depp. This film just doesn't happen. Shame, as it had a decent cast, but it feels like an X-Files episode, a bad one. Yeah, you know, if you whittled this down to like something that would fit within 45 minutes, it would have made a passable X-Files episode, but it still wouldn't have been anything new. It would have been one of the very forgettable X-Files episodes. Depending, I guess if you had thrown Skulder and Mully in there in a comical fashion, it might have worked as a comedy type episode. Who knows? 5 stars, December of 2017. Surprise ending, totally creepy. No, it's not a surprise ending. I'm sorry. Again, no plot twist to be found here. You know that Johnny Depp is under the control of an alien, and you know that any kids, I mean, you see right off the bat that one of the main features of this movie is that Charlize Theron is pregnant. Again, that's just like Rosemary's Baby, except when Rosemary's Baby came out, this hadn't been seen before, so that was a shocker. But guess what? We know already what the point of her being pregnant is from an astronaut who's obviously already impregnated in his own way by an alien entity. If this comes across as shocking to you, then you've not watched movies for the last 40 years. I'm sorry, it's It's completely predictable from even the trailer in this movie. Let's continue on. 1 star, August 31st, 2017. This movie was absolutely terrible, although it has a packed cast, which is what drew my interest. It was just a major disappointment. The writing is terrible, it was extremely boring, and I had to try and fight to stay awake for the crappy ending that I thought might give the movie some sort of redemption, which it didn't, and I wish I would have just taken the nap. Exactly, 100% agree. 5 stars. So awesome. I am going to watch it again tonight, and it's 2016. I'm going to take that as complete sarcasm. You have to have some sarcasm in there once in a while. September of 2015. 3.5 stars. An interesting sort of modernized version of Rosemary's Baby. Creepy, but the seduction scene made me wonder if the director was really going for a sci-fi thriller, or if he'd written and directed for the excuse to shoot a soft-core scene with Charlize Theron and Johnny Depp. As usual, not necessary for the film. Recently watched another movie with a body-snatched spouse, but this was a little more believable considering how PTSD does alter the personality of a person, and that the astronaut retained, well, they're excusing this, saying that, well, maybe it could have been a workable story if they had played it more of, the twist ending wasn't so obvious, and it might have been a PTSD thing going on. But that wouldn't have worked either, because Charlize Theron was the protagonist of this story. She didn't have PTSD. So that kind of thing, again, wouldn't have been surprising. We see everything from Charlize Theron's point of view in this. So no, that wouldn't have worked either. You would have had to have had Charlize Theron get the PTSD somehow, and no, that's not workable here. She was safely on the ground the whole time while Johnny Depp was in space, so no, unworkable idea. 3 stars, September of 2015. I'm not sure why I didn't catch this the first time I watched it, but this film is really just Rosemary's Baby with a sci-fi twist. Again, yeah, I'm not going to read the rest of the review because we've seen this 3 or 4 times before, slightly different wording. Yes, it's very much like Rosemary's Baby. But, Rosemary's Baby is, it was new in its day. It was shocking in its day. That's not shocking in today's world. In fact, Rosemary's Baby has been redone once. It is a literal remake with the same name, and it has been done once or twice otherwise in the modern times under different names. There's nothing interesting about it at all, because this isn't the early 1970s. We've seen all this stuff before. 0.5 star. You'll cash out on this movie well before the end. Yeah. 3 stars. Properly freaky science fiction thriller with Johnny Depp giving a good performance. The film's claustrophobic atmosphere is the highlight. No, no, and no. There's nothing claustrophobic. It's just an endless, boring story of Charlize Theron going around in Manhattan at one point, it appears, just having meetings with other people that also suspect, Johnny Depp's personality is up to no good. It's very boring. We already know he's up to no good. We already know he's an alien of some type. There's nothing more to see here. 3 stars. Interesting idea, not as developed or revealed as I like. 1 star, 2 great actors, bad plot, and awful director. Enough said. 1 star, November 22nd of 2014. Is it just me, or is this whole dumb movie blue? It is dumb. It is boring. More boring than anything else. 2.5 stars, not English. 1 star, waste of a good cast. Yes, it's like they showed up and they tried hard and they got paid, but there was no point to this. Who convinced them there was a point to this? I guess the point was they just, needed to have a project to do. Okay, so anyway, January 2014, 2 stars. A weird Johnny Depp flick with a beautiful Charlize Theron in it. The story is kind of dodgy here, but the film is quite suspenseful, but it lacks a better script and some much more inventive ideas for the scenario. Could have been much better. Yeah, there's nothing new here. Rosemary's Baby with, an astronaut and his wife, and we already know it's an alien, and there's no surprise there. And, there's not even a payoff to the end. Nothing changed from the beginning to the end. It's the same scenario that we leave at the end. So what was it all? Why did we sit there in our seat the whole time? I don't know. January 7th, 2014, 2.5 stars. An easy space flight, if there's ever such a thing, at least as of yet, has an unexplained 2-minute glitch that eventually leads to some curious, ominous questions, both for the astronauts involved and for their wives anxiously awaiting them back at home. Charlize Theron does pretty damn good carrying this Rosemary's Baby Space Alien edition, as she, like Mia Farrow in the original, begins to suspect that something might possibly be rotten in the state of Denmark. But see, the problem is, although Charlize Theron doesn't know what's going on, from her point of view in the film, the audience does. So it's not workable. It's boring. This needed to be a story in which the audience actually didn't know what was already going on at the beginning. And how can you market this as almost like Rosemary's Baby in space and then expect the audience to have some kind of suspense? We already know what's going on. So what is the point? And I'm just going to keep asking, what is the point? There was no point. 2 stars, December 28th, 2013. Nan, men are like parking spaces. All the good ones are taken and the available ones are handicapped. Back in the days when Johnny Depp was so Trey's hot that he can do no wrong, and Charlize was an equally attractive but talented gem of an actress that she seemed to only do Oscar-winning performances. But alas, not everything can be war and peace, unfortunately. This was strange at best, a bit of a Ninth Gate quirkiness to it as well, but without much of the suspense. Yeah, Ninth Gate, that's an apt comparison. It's got Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp in Ninth Gate is a little bit more quirky and interesting. The Ninth Gate has definitely more suspense. Now, don't get me wrong, the Ninth Gate, I should do a rotten review on that because, in my opinion, the Ninth Gate doesn't go anywhere either. But at least it had suspense, it had a reason to watch, and we didn't know where it was going. We didn't obviously see what was going on from the very beginning. In fact, it was very mysterious. This is completely the opposite of that. It's very boring. We know where it's going from the very beginning. The only direct thing there that you can plug between both is Johnny Depp. But that's it. I'm sorry. The Ninth Gate is actually more suspenseful than this, but also rotten. It is also rotten. December 23rd, 2013. 3.5 stars. A creepy, slow-burning psycho horror that keeps you squirming until the final reel. It's uneven and a little too long, but the premise and cast are excellent. Wow, it's like you're watching a different movie. This is not a horror movie in any regard. You're not squeaming or squirming or anything else in this. It's too boring. Anytime tension does build up for a little moment or two, it just becomes boring again. 1.5 star. Not even sure what genre that was meant to be. Not even Johnny Depp could make me enjoy that. Yeah, you think that it's going to be a psychological horror or something from the trailer, but it's too boring, and there's no suspense. You know what's going on, and nothing actually, the situation doesn't change at the end, so what was the point? 1.5 stars. The astronaut's wife originally posted, okay, whatever. It's a bad rental night when the highest hopes you have for a movie are of something that looked so utterly silly in the previews that you had no desire to see it in the theaters. Unfortunately, I got roped into this. I'm sorry. And aside from the climax, it wasn't really all that bad a movie, aside from Charlize Theron's As Ugly as I Wanna Be hairdo, Johnny Depp and How Far the Mighty Have Fallen, Nick Cassavetes. Yeah, this reviewer does bring up one interesting point. For some reason, Charlize Theron had to have like a butched haircut. I don't know why. If this had been made in 2019, there would be reviews claiming that this was some kind of feminist statement. But this was made in 1999, so when we saw Charlize Theron with her hair butched really short, we just thought that maybe she was trying to be unsexy for some reason, but no, she was still kind of sexy. Like another reviewer said, there was like a love scene in the shower type thing going on. Again, it was a fail, but yeah, she did have some weird hair in this. I don't know what the point of it was. 3 stars. August of 2013, The Astronaut's Wife had the feel of an indie flick, yet the backing of a Hollywood blockbuster, which really surprises me. New Line took a big risk in hiring the inexperienced and offbeat Rand Ravitch to direct a film with the star power of Johnny Depp, Charlize Theron, and Joe Morton, and I believe it paid off. Johnny Depp is phenomenal as always, and Charlize Theron had her moments, but what made this movie was the directing. Rand Ravitch did an incredible job by taking the stylistic approach. I would say no, I'm sorry. I'm glad I didn't have to read any more of that nonsense. The biggest mistake of this movie at the beginning was making the actual incident that happened in space like unintelligible to the audience. You don't understand exactly what kind of accident they had in space, and everybody else involved, like, for example, directors of NASA, staff at NASA, they don't seem to know or want to tell you what happened either. It's just all so mysterious. It doesn't work because the audience already knows what happened. But you don't see any detail. There's no payoff. It's not suspense. It's just like almost like that bad pronoun game that people play now where they try to create suspense by having all the characters just not mention things that they normally would, and that's the suspense. Um, you're just not shown what exactly happened in space, and that's supposed to be some kind of psychological suspense. I'm sorry, but that's just not workable. It's not enough. If it had continued along and given us something new, maybe, but it doesn't. And I was wondering, scratching my head from the beginning, well, yeah, the astronauts had some kind of, very bad mishap that got one of them killed. But what exactly happened? They deliberately made it like a mystery as to what happened. I don't think anybody in the film did know what happened, and nobody seemed to care that they didn't know what happened. That's so ridiculous, but that's what the film shows. 2 stars, July of 2013. Johnny Depp and Charlize Theron star in the psychological thriller The Astronaut's Wife. And here we have another summary. The pacing is especially slow, and the dialogue is poorly written. The performances are also weak, particularly Depp, who's one-dimensional and colorless. Additionally, the plot is bland and uninteresting, so they gave it 2 stars, and I'll largely agree with that, yeah. 2 stars, my favorite science fiction film is 1968's 2001 A Space Odyssey. And this was like an action thriller to you? I mean, I don't get the point. We're not reviewing 2001 right now. We're reviewing, The Astronaut's Wife. I don't get what they're trying to say here. 1.5 stars. Judging by the title, I thought it was a porn film when I saw it in a video shop many years ago. I didn't rent that film out for that reason. I rented out Eyes Wide Shut. Then, when I watched it later, like porn films, utter predictable crap, to sum it up in a few words. Yeah, The Astronaut's Wife, there probably is a porn by that title. Again, that is kind of they're bringing up something. It is called The Astronaut's Wife, but yet there's nothing in the film that's really about the wife. It's more about like the astronaut's wife's suspicions. The astronaut's wife bores us to death. Yeah, it's a really, it's almost telling you it's going to be boring with that title, but it would make a porn title, yes. 4 stars, April of 2013. It's not the best ever, but it's good. I'm sorry, it's like you watched a different film. It's not good at all. That's why we're here. 5 stars, suspenseful and wicked. One hell of a twisted sci-fi thriller. I loved every minute of it. I don't believe you at all. You're either in parody or you copy-pasted this all over everything on Rotten Tomatoes. 3 stars, March of 2013. Leaves too many questions unanswered. No, it doesn't. It doesn't even... I'm sorry, but nothing changes from the beginning to the end. There's an alien in somebody plotting to take over the world at the beginning. Unsure how. And there's an alien plotting to take over the world at the end in the form of 2 kids. Again, I'm unsure how they're going to take over, but they're up to something. What was the point? I don't know. 1 star, disappointed. I was expecting a much better movie, although suspenseful in moments, it overall falls flat. It's overall just completely boring. It's funny how they give it 1 star, but, the words of their reviews say it's like, it almost suggests that it's 2.5 or something. No, this is bad. 4 stars. Johnny's got a 5 on this one for being so damn hot. I guess if you've got posters of Johnny Depp on your walls, that's all it takes. Okay, whatever. 5 stars. God, not English. 2.5 stars. Science fiction blends with domestic horror in this thriller. There's actually no science fiction here. Um, the astronauts, nothing about NASA and the astronauts is shown in a science fiction way. Uh, yes, it's an alien entity of some type that possesses the astronaut, but it's not done in a science fiction way. There's really no science fiction here. There's no horror here because there's not enough tension. So no, it's not a thriller because it's too slow for that and too boring. So actually, this one sentence is a complete fail of a review. It's actually none of the things that this reviewer thinks it is, and it's certainly not 2.5 stars. It peaks at 2. I'm thinking maybe it should be 1. I mean, I don't know, 2 stars maybe just because it had a budget and it looked good. But I don't know. I'm thinking about just dropping this back to 1 star. 1 star, Depp and Throne looked good, but are wasted in this dull sci-fi thriller. It's not a thriller, not sci-fi. 4 stars, a tense, dark, pivotal thriller. I'm going to stop there because we're just going to have to disagree on that. 2 stars, December of 2012, was not impressed at all by this movie. Half a star, worst Johnny Depp movie. Let's read on. 1 star, November of 2012. I was expecting the movie to more than what it was. Honestly, couldn't been better. I just didn't like it. Okay. Bad English, but you got the point across. 3 stars. I was really with it the first hour, and then it all falls apart. Wow, you had a lot more patience than me. I was ready to fall asleep after the first hour. 4 stars. Creepy, but I still loved it. It was only creepy in the first like 10 minutes. 4.5 stars. Charlize Theron and Johnny Depp, fantastic duo. The creepiness of Depp compiled with the sexiness of Theron. I'm sorry, but maybe if they were in a 20-minute short thing together, that would be true, but this just goes on forever. It's boring. 5 stars. Ain't seen the beginning, but a great film. You don't need to see anything here. 3.5 stars. Good movie. It was really out there. It was really boring. 1.5 star, dull and pointless. Johnny Depp plays a far too run-of-the-mill boring character for his acting style, and the subpar scares won't raise anything apart from your anguish at how much longer of the film is left. Give this one a miss. Yeah, it's like it just goes on forever. 1 star, Johnny Depp good, Charlize. Oh yeah, but this movie blows, and you'll want 1 hour and 49 minutes of your life back. I agree. 3 stars, not English. 5 stars. Oh, this movie is so good, thrilling, and Johnny is so cute, even if he is the bad guy in this one. Charlize is a great actress, but in the end, it lives. Yikes. Um, why did you give it 5 stars? I'll never know. 2 stars. I thought the plot was pretty good. And I like a lot of the actors, Depp, Theron, Morton, Duvall. It just went by so slowly. I thought it could have been done with some more tense moments and stressful situations. I was glad to see Depp doing something, not Tim Burton, but the movie missed the field goal on this one. Yeah, Johnny Depp should just stick with Tim Burton and just don't do anything else. I mean, that's what it looks like in 2019. 3 stars. E.T. Something or other. It's not English. 3 stars. Johnny Depp gives a good performance as usual, and the story was good. Sorry, it's not. 3 stars. I, for one, thought this was an okay movie. Not great, but I've seen much worse. Yeah, there's worse, but this will just bore you to death. 1.5 stars. Take 2 of our best actors and creepy sci-fi concept, and you get this? Yeah, well, this isn't creepy sci-fi anything. They're not 2 of our best actors either. They're good, but they're not the best. 3 stars. The suspension of disbelief is well hung by the fine performances of Depp and Theron, but the story should have been bolder in its attempt to horrify us. There is neither a message nor a meaningful explanation to the suspense that holds us waiting for the duration of the feature. It's pointlessly exploitive and melodramatic. However, thanks to decent directing, it is undeniably entertaining if you're in that sort of mood. No, you almost had me with, the pointlessly exploitive and melodramatic, and also, with the boredom of it. You had me going here until you ended with, the decent directing and undeniably entertaining. No, no, no. Boring and undeniably entertaining are like the opposites, I'm afraid. 3 stars. He's hiding inside me. Um, Something was. 3 stars. Interesting thriller. It has its moments. Good for a rainy day. This whole movie's a rainy day that you paid money for, unfortunately, if you were in the theater in 1999. 3.5 stars. I'd love to see it again. Well, good for you if you like punishment. 1 star. This movie was very slow paced. I found myself bored through most of it. I wasn't scared or edgy like I am with most thrillers. It's a meh. And what's worse is it doesn't explain anything or show more of the alien at the end. I was expecting a big boss fight type of thing. Very huge letdown. No, there's no boss fight. There's no alien. The alien is just an entity you have to imagine in your mind, and that's it. If you like alien sci-fi in which people are pretending like there's an alien involved somehow, then this might be your cup of tea, but you'll probably fall asleep before you get anything out of it. There's no point to this. The trailer had everything. It starts and finishes the same. Nothing changes. No characters even change. Like, it's called The Astronaut's Wife, and that's the main figure here, the astronaut's wife. She doesn't change from the beginning to the end. So what's the point? There's no point. And I will see you again on the next episode of Rotten Reviews.